Welcome, everybody, to the Red Zone Report, brought to you by PLB Sports and Entertainment, the makers of Josh's Jacks, the JA17 line of coffee, and the Stephon Diggs 14 line of hot sauces. Everybody, please enjoy the show. Welcome, everybody, to the Red Zone Report. It's me, your host, Izzy, right here on the Built-in Buffalo YouTube network, also on Facebook and X, or Twitter, whatever you're calling it these days. I'm calling it X because that's what it is, but if you still call it Twitter, so be it. We already got some comments in the chat. Go Bills. Happy Sunday, Izzy. Thank you, Kim and Chris716. And what up, fam, from John Herring. Some of the usuals already in the chat. Please don't be afraid to chat. I will be looking at your chats there from time to time and bringing up some of your comments. And today we are going over the NFL Combine and a preview of said Combine. And today I will be going over four specific positions that we Bills fans all know are needed for this team. And these are the positions that most Bills fans will be focused on directly. And my man John Robert has the NFL Combine's schedule right here. So take a look at that. It's in the Facebook comments. So if you go to our Facebook group and you look at the comments there, you can see this, or you can just pause the video and watch it later, and you'll see exactly what time and date the certain positions will be doing their workouts. Thank you, John Robert, always on here, dropping some positivity and some assistance to the people giving the shows right here on Built in Buffalo. So, John, we appreciate that very much. John Herring, Izzy, you lose weight? I lost like 4 pounds. So, yeah, I did, but not by much. Still sexy, young fight. You heard? Let's go, baby. And Bill, I am in the comments. Sup? What up, baby? How you doing? Welcome to the show. Now, I'm going to be breaking these down in the order of which, roster are usually looked at. So it's going to go wide receiver, defensive end, defensive tackle, and safety. Those are the four positions that the Bills are agreeably by the fan base in need of, right? Micah Hyde retiring. Jordan Poyer may or may not be with the team this coming year. Probably will be, but we don't know. Hello, Sandra. Welcome to the show. We don't know the status of Cameron Lewis, and we don't know whether we're going to keep DeMar Hamlin or not. My guess is if we don't make a lot of moves at safety, he may be here to compete for the fourth or fifth position at safety. But as of right now, the only two safeties on the roster are Jordan Poyer and DeMar Hamlin, and we have another safety. I'm forgetting, but he was a practice squad guy, so I'm not sure if he's really going to be a guy that we're looking at. So we're going to see what happens. Of course, everybody who's on the roster has a chance to make the roster as long as you impress the coaches. So here we go. The first position, of course, is wide receiver. Let me scroll up because there's 28 players in total that I'll be talking about, right? Because the players I'm talking about today are players that the Bills can realistically draft. That, as of right now, right after the combine, all bets are off. We don't know, but as of right now, these are the guys that we're all looking at to see how they test. And spoiler alert, there's more wide receivers than any other position. I think there's 10 receivers and 5 or 6 defensive ends, 5 or 6 defensive tackles, and then 5 or 6 safeties. But the receivers, it's a heavy receiver class. So naturally, there's going to be more receivers on my list. And the first one that is potentially possible for the Buffalo Bills in the first round, maybe the second, but I doubt he'll be around in the second round, is wide receiver Troy Franklin from Oregon. Now, on these, NFL analyst Greg Zerline had a comp for most players on here. And if he didn't, then I watched some tape and did some studying, and I gave him a comp myself. And some of these players that I comped him to were on the Bills, but most of them weren't. Well, maybe it's half and half because he had comps for most of the players. All right, so Troy Franklin is a popular guy among Bills fans, right? Troy Franklin is a guy that Bills fans are clamoring over. He's an excellent route runner. He's good at separating. He's got very good speed. He gets open deep. He catches the hand with his the ball with his hands. He is very, very astute when it comes to playing wide receiver. Question is, at the next level, is he going to be able to reach his high potential? And that's going to be up to work ethic, and it's going to be up to his coachability, right? Those two things are going to be paramount in how he fits in Buffalo if we were to draft Troy Franklin. And he's probably my favorite wide receiver at 28, if possible. Now, if let's say something happens, and let's say Rome Odunze runs like a 4.55 and it drops his his draft stock, and he just happens to be there at like 22, and the Bills decide that, hey, we're going to trade up and go get this guy. That's possible, but it's highly unlikely. So I stuck with the guys that are likely to be had at the spot we're at. And so pre-combine look for Troy Franklin. He is 6'3", 180 pounds. So he's not a huge guy, but he's tall. He's tall and he's lean. His comp was Chris Olave, which I like. I like Chris Olave. And Greg Zerline says he easily puts the puzzle together when assessing who he'd be in the NFL. He's tall. He's linear with good speed. He's sudden enough to beat press, but lacks the play strength to win combat catches and fly, and fight for operating space. Most likely because of his size. He's likely not able to do that because of his size. He's an innate talent for avoiding traffic, meaning he finds open spaces in defenses, and he maintains his distance from pursuit after the catch on crossing routes on all levels. And the Bills run a lot of crossing routes, so that would be a very positive influence on this offense for him. He might not be a number one wide receiver. As of now, he might not be, but he could possibly develop into that. But he should be productive with a high yards per catch average, which is what we're looking for. We want guys who can catch the ball, turn the field, and make plays. See, Franklin could be coveted a complimentary piece like we would be doing here in Buffalo. You have Stephon Diggs, you need a true number 2. That's where he comes in. He's got a really good frame. He has excellent releasing quickness. He can hit corners with wicked crosses and to cover over a quick slant, so he's a good slant guy. Gives strong vertical push to drive corners off his intermediate breaks. He accelerates past and stacks cornerbacks behind him. He has an innate feel for maintaining distance from nearest defender in open space. And this is all Greg Zerline, or Lance Zerline, excuse me, not Greg. I don't know where I got Greg from. He is talented after the catch and will hit his share of catch and run scores, meaning he's scoring after he gets run for the catch. And he's got the ups, right? Explosive leaper with loose upper body to twist and pluck it, meaning he's good at going up and getting it, right? And we haven't had one of those in a while. Gabe Davis, he's gone up and gotten it, from time to time, but he's not known as that contested catch guy who plucks the ball out the air. And his weaknesses are below average strength, so it could be, he's small or for his frame. He's unable to hold off challengers and save catch space. So if he's contested, he has a hard time there. He rolls into intermediate breaks with excessive gaps or gather steps, meaning he takes his time within his breaks, which allows defenders to catch up sometimes. And his ball tracking is a little bit inconsistency at times. And focus drops are part of the package, meaning he's going to drop some passes every now and then. Now, being the the 4th or 5th wide receiver in his draft class, he's going to have some of those issues early on. Hopefully, he's able to develop beyond those later on if the Bills draft him, but there's no telling. But every single one of these prospects after Rome Odunze is going to have something questionable about what they do. Troy Franklin's no different. Long, lean receiver who really is going to be a coveted piece, especially if he runs, like John Roberts says in the comments here, a potential 4.35. If he runs a 4.35, he may not make it to us at 28. We may have to jump to get him. That's going to be a perspective thing for Bean. Is he willing to part ways with another pick to be able to go get this guy when we need to get younger all over the field? We may then decide to defer going after wide receiver into the 2nd round. So we'll see. But Troy Franklin is the number 1 guy on our list at wide receiver, or my list. You guys can discuss however you feel after that. My number 2 guy that I would like is wide receiver Brian Thomas from LSU. He didn't have a comp. Funny enough, they didn't have a comp for him. His prospect grade as of right now is a 6'4", He's 6'4", 205 pounds. So a little bit taller and a little bit more massive. He has more mass than Franklin. But he is not as polished a receiver. And here goes with his description. Presents an appealing combination of size, length, and speed with experience working inside and outside, again, per Lance Zierlein. Thomas will occasionally go through the motions as a route runner, meaning he's not that great a route runner, but he goes through the motions. But the bend, athleticism, and speed needed to be better are all in the toolbox, meaning he has the ability to improve just based on what is seen on tape. He's elusive against press and can uncover quickly underneath, meaning he doesn't take time out of his breaks. Out of his breaks, he's quick as a whip. Again, he will go through the motion sometimes as a route runner, but he is not one who is shy to make his breaks quickly. But he still needs to improve intermediate routes and play a little more physically when crowded to become well-rounded. Thomas rarely has issues generating separation deep and could be counted on as an NFL team's designated deep guy early in his career. Thomas is unpolished, but has projectable talent to become wide receiver 1 or 2 in time, which is what we're looking for. We're looking for a wide receiver 2 who could potentially be the guy once Diggs is out of town. 4 years left on Diggs' deal. If this guy's there in round 1 and we take him, he could easily develop behind Diggs. And what better guy to develop your route running with than Stephon Diggs? Develop his route running, hit that 5th-year option, bam, and then he's the continuation of wide receiver for this team once Stephon Diggs' days here in Buffalo are up, which could be 3 years from now. We don't know. It could be 3 years from now, where it's time to give the extension to Brian Thomas and look for another guy to draft. Now, he does a good job of steering clear of press hands during the release, meaning he's good at getting off the ball. Pressing him is not a great idea. Short area shake helps uncover for quick hitters underneath, meaning he's good at getting those quick passes. And Josh Allen likes to hit either a receiver deep, taking his time in the pocket, or if he's getting the rush, he likes to be able to get the ball out fast. This guy is that guy, Brian Thomas. Now, able to bend hips and sit in the chair at route breaks, meaning he can get low. If the quarterback has to throw the ball quickly and the ball has to be low so that way a secondary defender behind him doesn't have a chance at the ball, this guy is a guy who can get down and get it. Shoelaces. Let's go. Straight line speed takes him to top position on go routes. Reminds me a little bit of Gabe Davis with better hands. Outstanding ball tracker who can bring it over his shoulder, length, and burst to run down and secure potential overthrows, meaning he is hard to overthrow. And Josh Allen needs one of those guys who can catch up to the pass. And he led the nation with 17 receiving scores at pace of 1 every 4 catches, meaning every 4 times he's thrown the ball, this guy catches a touchdown. All right. This guy right here is playing like his hair's on fire. So Brian Thomas, they didn't have a comp for him. I compared him to Martavis Bryant of the Steelers. I don't know if any of you guys remember Martavis Bryant. When he was in the NFL, before all the trouble happened with, the legal issues and the substance issues, Martavis Bryant was set to become the Steelers' next great receiver behind Antonio Brown. And then all the issues started happening. So outside of those issues, Brian Thomas, to me, is a good pick for the Buffalo Bills as well, especially if Franklin goes out there and blows the doors off people with that 40 time and then becomes, a guy that they got to have in the, early 20s, and the Bills don't have the firepower to go get him. I like Brian Thomas, and I'm all for drafting him in the first round if he's there. I really like Brian Thomas. Now, next guy, this guy's been drafted to us a few times. I really like him. He's another tall, lean wide receiver. Let's see, another tall, lean wide receiver. And Miss Tia Stell and Spin in the comments. I really want Brian Thomas Jr. I wouldn't mind it at all. I'm all for it. And so Spin says, I think there will be 5 to 6 wide receivers picked before us. That could be very true. And we got some spam in the comments. And guess what, buddy? You are out of here. Bye. And I'm going to delete that comment too because you don't need to be here. Boom. All right. So the next guy on my list is, of course, Texas wide receiver Adonai Mitchell, also known as AD. His comp, according to Lance Zierlein, is George Pickens and AD Mitchell. He's from Missouri City, Texas. He is 6'4", 196, so about 200 pounds. Body frame reminds me of not Greg Hardy. The former Hardy wide receiver the Buffalo Bills drafted. I'm forgetting his name now. Rest in peace to him. I know he passed away a while back. But his player comp was George Pickens. Not a bad comp. George Pickens is a solid wide receiver in the NFL. He's got some attitude issues, but those issues are not what they're talking about when they talk about his NFL comparison. We're talking about his physical stature. So he's an ascending prospect with size, speed, and ball skills to become a very good NFL wide receiver per Lance Zierlein. But he's still in the process of bridging those traits. Mitchell can beat press and has the speed to take the battle to the third level, but he's still learning the art of bullying to catch space in tight quarters, meaning he's not as physical as he possibly could be, and that's going to be something that he's developed later on. He's going to have to develop his physical abilities in boxing people out, so he's the only guy who has a chance to catch the ball in tight quarters with defensive players. Now, he's not always a natural hands catcher, so sometimes he's a body catcher, but his ability to snare balls outside of his frame is top-notch, meaning he's got a very, very wide catch radius, kind of like a Chad Ochocinco. His route running currently lacks the focus and consistently, but agility and burst out of breaks will not be an issue, meaning he gets in and out of his breaks like there is no break even happening. It's very fluid and natural. Mitchell is rugged after the catch, and his ability to become a winner on all three levels. The difference between becoming a wide receiver 2 and 1 could rest in his urgency and his willingness to go to work, meaning if he puts in the work ethic, he could potentially be a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. I think that applies to most people with that potential. If you have that potential, then it's there, but you have to put in the work, right? Larry Fitzgerald was a key component of this. I forget who it was, but the Cardinals drafted a wide receiver a few years after Larry Fitzgerald. It did not work out, and there was a Twitter post that Larry Fitzgerald said was that this guy was charged with DUI, a.k.a. don't want it, DWI. So he was not talking about this guy drinking while intoxicated. He was talking about this guy not willing to put in the work. So he's going to have to work on the unpolished areas of his craft per Lance Zierlein. Now, he flashes foot quickness needed to beat NFL press. Good. Speed shifter inside the route with sudden change of direction, stands ground and keeps landing area to boundary open and deep sideline throws, meaning he can get to the boundary, he can get into the gaps, and he can use the sideline to his advantage. Ridiculous catch web, meaning his radius is crazy, bringing in off-frame throws from all directions, meaning he's a hands catcher most of the time, even though it did say previous that he can get outside of that whole hands thing. But if he's able to catch outside of his hands with catching outside of his frame, or catch outside with his hands when trying to catch outside of his frame, then that tells me he's a hands catcher. So he's already using the NFL 2-foot drop near boundaries, meaning that he's already in college using 2 feet down inbounds before catching the ball. In college, you only need 1 foot in, the first foot, of course, for it to count as a completed catch. In the NFL, you need 2 feet down. He's already doing 2 feet down. He's a patient, long ball tracker, and noted jump ball winner, meaning he gets up there and goes for it. High point catching from this guy with his hands. He's able to break tackles and fall forward for positive yards. That reminds me of Fred Jackson. You know, you always say I'm 6 foot, so if somebody catches me from behind, I should be able to fall forward for 2 yards. Intensity can fluctuate from game to game, meaning that he's not always in the zone. Allows smaller players into his space to contest catches. Yeah, so smaller corners can give him some trouble on occasion. He's a cradle catcher who fights football when catching with hands. I don't know how that can be true with the other part also being true. So we'll see in the combine how he looks catching the football. He needs to keep routes on time with better efficiency and finish, and he doesn't play with aggression or sustain when he's asked to run block. So his blocking is going to have to be a thing, and that kind of makes him the opposite of Gabriel Davis in some respects. Now, let's look at some comments here. Let's see. Sandra Elking says, thanks. Hopefully we can get multiple receivers in the draft. I'm not sure if we need multiple, if we sign some, so we'll see. Spin says Mike Jones, Mike Johnson, Mike Williams, Mike somebody. I'm not. It wasn't a Mike, I don't think. That doesn't feel familiar. It was Arizona, so I'm forgetting his name. Bean needs to sign a competent receiver in FA, you know how the draft board will fall. Yeah. He does need to get a veteran here to short things up, and then a rookie to either beat that guy in camp and make that guy the fourth wide receiver, or the rookie to be the fourth wide receiver while learning behind that guy. So we'll see what happens. I wish the draft was before free agency. You and me both. But then that makes free agency way more competitive. So that guy is mentioned only by one ESPN expert as a top wide receiver by Bill I Am. And that may be so, but I'm doing my own stuff here. And ESPN experts, nah. I look at a lot of different, sites for this. NFL Draft Buzz, NFL Network, ESPN, PFF. There's a bunch of different groups that I'm looking at, and he's a top 6, top 7 wide receiver in every single one that I've seen. ESPN, they got their thing that they're doing. I'm not really worried about one outlet, but we'll get through it. Anyway, so the next wide receiver on the list is Jermaine Burton from Alabama. And so I wasn't paying that much attention to this guy, but he's 6 foot 194, so he's a shorter guy, but he's a bigger, body for that frame. So he's filled out. His NFL comparison is Kenny Stills. So Kenny Stills, I know everybody remembers Kenny Stills, had a solid career, but it was short-lived. Again, all these guys are being looked at by Lance Zierlein, who I guess is the guru at NFL. He says, while the catch totals and yardage weren't necessarily prolific, Burton's tape is very appealing. He has pretty good size and plays bigger than his measures, meaning that he plays taller than he is. He must have a good vertical. He can fight through press. Well, he's a heavier guy at his height, so yeah. Gets physical at the break point and carve out space on 50-50 balls. Burton wasn't asked to run an extended route tree, meaning he may have some developing to do within his routes. But he has the traits and ball skills to work on all 3 levels, meaning he can be an intermediate, short, and deep route guy, unlike the guy we just lost in Gabe Davis, who is not very good in the short route department. He's solid in the deeper intermediate, and he's way better in the deep routes, but not great in the shorts. And so this guy is good at all 3 levels. Let's see, all 3 levels. He caught a touchdown pass every 5.7 catches during his career, but he would have scored even more if not for some mistimed throws by Milroe and whoever his other quarterbacks were when he had opened the window wide. Burton's athletic profile and ball skills create confidence that can become a solid wide receiver 2 or 3 in the NFL. Meaning they don't think he has the potential to be a wide receiver 1. However, no one thought that Puka Nacua could either. So I look at that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 grade in the league as something that's really up to the player, not so much the analyst. Strengths. The first one I love. He's rarely bothered by physical route redirections, meaning the corner can be physical with him, and he doesn't really get fazed by all that. He's going to get around you either way, or he'll make a cut or a move. He'll separate from you and get around to get to where he's got to go. Doesn't really bother him. He's physical too. He's well-conceived speed variances inside some routes, meaning he is able to vary his speed in order to find holes in the zone. Quick plant and open for stop routes and back shoulder fades, meaning he catches the ball no matter where it's thrown to him on his body. Again, that is contrary to what Gabe Davis does. Gabe Davis was not really that guy. The ball really needs to be in front of him or on him. There were sometimes he made some really excellent catches where the ball was kind of placed behind him, but they were few and far between, and those were drop passes most of the time with Gabe Davis. His hands are big, strong, and almost automatic when he's open. So if this guy's not being covered or if he finds himself wide open, he doesn't drop the ball. Frame and demeanor to beat physical corners at the catch point. Kind of the same thing as the first positive. Premium deep ball tracker with know-how to control late catch space. So he's good at tracking the ball while in the air on deep routes, and he knows how to control his body to catch the ball. Finds a second gear to help run down the deep ball, meaning that when the ball is up in the air and it looks like it's out of his range, he is the guy who can catch up to the football. Weaknesses. Run short and intermediate routes will step count with step counting tempo, meaning he's kind of a stepper in those. He's counting his steps more than he's counting his distance. So that's something he's going to have to develop. He struggles to snap out breaking routes on crisp angles. So he's going to have to work on that route running. Loses catches when his feet lose track of the boundary. So it means he has a hard time with Mr. Sammy Sideline, as Charles Davis would call it. Lacks creativity after the catch, meaning that he's not really that great at getting yak, and he could be asked to summon more strain as a run blocker, meaning it doesn't look like he gives the most effort while blocking. And that's one thing that freaking Gabe Davis had a ton of. He was excellent at, blocking. He was not shy about blocking. He was happy to do it. And, that's great. But we are paying the receivers to catch the football. I mean, blocking is nice, and you need to be able to do it. And I think that could be improved in the NFL, and we'll see. A lot of NFL teams, they say, no block, no rock. That was Tony Romo's words in the Super Bowl. And we'll see if that holds true for this guy here. Let's see. Should the Bills draft a running back such after? I think the Bills will draft a running back in this draft, but it's not a position of need to the point where we have to do it early. Or even do it twice. Whereas the positions I pulled up, we may have to draft 2 of these guys. Receivers just a position with a lot of them. See, Xavier Legette in round 2, get that speed. I like Xavier Legette, but we'll get to him. He's down the list. Excuse the dogs. Next on the list, Tez Walker from UNC. His player comp is Alex Pierce from the Rams, I believe he is. I'm forgetting where Alex Pierce is. I think he's a Ram. I could be wrong. But he's 6'2", 200 pounds. He's from Charlotte, North Carolina. He went to UNC, so he's a local boy where I'm at. I'm in North Carolina. His overview is all-day vertical threat with long linear frame and impressive build-up speed. And he gets faster as he runs to win the foot race. I mean, he's got an extra gear. He may not start off the fastest, but he's got an extra gear down the line. Walker is a tale of 2 receivers. He's a long strider who will excel running go routes, post corners, and over routes. When he's allowed to maintain play speed and keep his feet moving, he's fine. When he's asked to get in and out of breaks or make tight turns, his lack of short area footwork and route acumen make him substantially easier to cover. Walker showed drastic improvement during the combat catch, meaning if it's you and me trying to catch this ball, I'm catching the ball. However, you're probably going to catch up to me, and I'm going to have to make these contested catches on a regular basis. I am okay with that if he's the guy winning. In the NFL, winning is not going to be as easy as in college, but he does play in the ACC with some pretty solid cornerback play. Now, jury's still out on whether he's physical enough to do it as a pro. We'll see. He's a day 2 field stretcher from West Coast offenses looking to create explosive opportunities in the passing game. So this guy may not necessarily be for us. He may as well, but if it's a West Coast receiver you're looking at, they usually have a lot of in-breaking routes, a lot of slants, a lot of, crossers. And from the description, it doesn't sound like he's that good at that. So we'll see. Strengths: booming build-up speed to gobble up cushions and separate vertically. Career average of 30.7 yards on touchdown receptions. That's pretty crazy. Ability to stack coverage and save catch space on go routes. Squares, pads, and bodies up corners on slants, meaning he's not scared to hit somebody. Let's go, baby. I like a hitter. I love me a hitter, baby. Showed substantial improvement finishing contested catches. Let's go. Leaping and full body extension turn would be overthrows into catches. Okay, he turns overthrows into catches. So they forgot the S on that, and I read that. Full body extension turn would be okay. Maybe I just in my head processed that wrong. Weaknesses: route running features dull cuts and excessive drifting. Disjointed with sloppy footwork. I don't like that. Tends to wait on stop route throws rather than working back. Okay. His weaknesses are really throwing me off here. Average catch strength to secure off-target throws, and inconsistent tracking and adjusting to deep ball. So for me, this guy's a 3rd-round pick, maybe a 4th. I like him, but we'll see. We'll see. See, why does DeMar Hamlin want to be a Steeler? He's from Pittsburgh. Makes sense. If you were a professional athlete, Jacob, you would want to be a Buffalo Bill. Why? Because you are from Western New York, baby. Your hometown team. You want to be on a team that you loved as a kid. That's everybody's dream. Everybody's dream. All right, next receiver I think I like much more than Tez Walker is Malachi Corley. Now, we are into the second round receivers, maybe third round in Tez Walker and Malachi Corley. But Malachi Corley is an intriguing guy. Very intriguing. He is 5'11", 215. That's a big 5'11", 215 pounds. He's from Florida. He went to Western Kentucky. Now, his NFL comparison, oh my gosh, is Deebo Samuel of Ole Miss fame and San Francisco 49ers. Let's go. Corley is a big physical wideout who has been asked to carry a heavy workload for Western Kentucky. Big physical wideout throws you off when you hear 5'11". When you hear 215, you go, I'm listening. He uses his talent after the catch. Corley's highlight reel will be full of broken tackles and general carnage left in his wake. Wow, what a description that is by Lance Zierlein. He's an average route runner with tools to improve. I like that, right? Because if you're drafting a receiver in the second round, you know he's not polished. You know he's not fully there, but you know that this guy should have the tools to develop to get there. Like a Michael Thomas, like a Devontae Adams, like a DK Metcalf. You know, he's a ball of clay that can be developed into something better than he is currently. But a disappointing drop rate and contested catch rate are concerns relative to the way he plays the game in space. Like Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel when they were prospects. So when those guys were prospects, they were the same way, but they've turned out pretty good in the NFL. Corley has had a heavy percentage of his targets schemed around him, and he will need to prove he can become more than just a quick game bully or gadget guy. That's a little concerning. However, small school guy, Division I still, but smaller school. He's good at what his team asked him to do, which is a great jump-off point for evaluators, considering him as a day 2 selection and future starter. So that to me screams second, third round, maybe late second into the third round. But if you don't get your guy in the first round and say none of the receivers that you want with the first round grades are there, you then take your defensive tackle, defensive end, safety prospect there. Not safety for me. I know a lot of people are into Nubin like that. I think that second round is a better fit for me. And actually, some of the safeties I looked at, some of the later guys are better, in my opinion, for this team. And you'll see why when we get there. But Corley is an interesting prospect, to say the least. I'm currently closing out some of these things so I don't have so many things open. But Corley is a good prospect. I like him coming out of Western Kentucky. He's going to be one to really look at if it comes to the second round and we don't get one in the first. See, Roy Collins says Corley sounds like a possession receiver that fights for extra yards. It does seem that way. However, possession receivers generally have better hands than what they're describing, but we'll see. You know, like these pre-draft things just mean that's what he did in college. So, you know, going into in the pros, a lot of these descriptions don't make sense once you see him in the pros. A la Geno Stone and Puka Nacua, guys who were drafted late, but then somehow, you know, prospered. Like Jordan Poyer, like Micah Hyde, guys who were drafted in the 5th and 6th and 7th round. Matt Milano, 5th round pick. You know, these guys are looked at like they're not fully polished or they're not fully ready. They're not fully capable yet. That's why they're 5th, 6th, 7th round picks. But I think Corley is a guy who has potential, a lot of potential. Now, next guy on the freaking list, let's go, is Keon Coleman, Florida State University, wide receiver. And people are both hot and cold on this guy. He's a one-year wonder, it seems. His last year in college was where he took off. But it's really the first year where he had quality quarterback play from Jordan Travis. Jordan Travis transferred to Florida State, and Florida State went undefeated. He got hurt the last game of the year, and then they went to that crappy bowl game against Florida where most of the team decided, we're not playing in this game. We got screwed. And Keon Coleman shined this year. Now, is it because of poor quarterback play before and then he finally got a good quarterback, or is it because he's just a one-year wonder? No telling at this point in time. But he's 6'4", 215, so he's a big body wide receiver. And his player comp is Drake London, which I do like, but Drake London hasn't showed much in the NFL either. But he's also suffered from poor quarterback play. So we're going to have to see how this guy develops. I'm not necessarily for drafting Keon Coleman. I'm not against it either. I let Brandon Bean do the studying, and I'll just do my research and give my opinions here. And I'm going to go ahead and look at the analysis by Lance Zierlein. It says above the rim artist, meaning he goes up and gets it high with circus catches resembling a scene from the tents of Cirque du Soleil. Coleman has excellent size and ball skills. He's not sudden and doesn't have great speed. So beating press and creating breathing room against tight man coverages will depend on his ability to improve as a route runner. That's what you expect in the second, third round. The former star basketball player has a rebounder's blend of extension and timing to give jump ball defenders the blues. He's big and strong with soft hands, but he can play with a little more aggression in claiming his deep ball space and getting after a run as a run blocker, meaning he's a good run blocker. He likes to go out there and he likes to hit people. And at his size, who could blame him? If you can do it, go do it, baby. Coleman might lack the athletic traits to be a well-rounded wide receiver too. Instead, keep an eye on him as a big slot receiver who can be a red zone specialist. I take that last part with a grain of salt. He's a big guy. The slot is most likely not going to be his forte. Also, he lacks speed and quickness, so I think that he's going to be a guy who's going to have to play on the outside and learn to run his routes. Strengths. Prototypical size and high-end ball skills. Attacks underneath throws with extended, sticky hands. I like that. Catches the ball. Doesn't have drops. That I like a lot. Works aggressively back and or on short and intermediate throws. That's excellent. We need that. We need somebody else who can work in the short and intermediate. This guy's got that. Unlikely to see focus drops when watching his tape. So meaning he doesn't drop the ball. Thank you. The anti-Gabe Davis. Meets jump balls with full extension to the high point. Let's go. Uses size to gain advantage over the cornerback on jump ball wins. Sounds similar to the last one, but not exactly the same. Explains how. Hard to bring down after the catch as a punt returner. Okay, so this guy can return some punts. Weaknesses are pressure coverage can blanket him or blanket his release and catch a ride, meaning that they can stick to his hip, giving the defender a chance to tip or intercept the pass. Below average acceleration getting out of breaks and cuts. The struggle finding separation to avoid excessive contested catches, needs to play through downfield corners to secure the catch space, and capable of being much more effective run blocker. They complimented his run blocking and then disrespected it right after that. So I'm not sure what that's about, but Lance, you got to be more consistent. Come on now, Lance. But I do like Lance Zierlein. That's why I'm using him. Like I do enjoy his commentary. But I like Keon Coleman. If he's there in the second round and we can't get a first round guy and they like him, it's okay. But I prefer somebody who's faster. He doesn't have the speed or the quickness, but he's got the size and he's got the catch ability. Speed is less important than catching the football. This guy catches the football. Keon Coleman, Florida State. He also fights for the ball, meaning he's not just going to let you out-muscle him or get in front of him to catch the ball. No, he's going to do everything he can to make sure he gets the ball or no one gets the ball. So Keon Coleman. And I know I'm kind of going through these guys kind of quick. I have 28 players to go through, and it's already 38 minutes in. So let's go. Next player. This is a guy that has been asked about, and it is Xavier Legette, University of South Carolina, SC, not USC. USC is University of Southern California. He didn't have a player comp, and I compared him to Gabe Davis. Got that good deep speed. He's probably going to run faster than Gabe Davis. His size is almost exactly Gabe Davis, 6'1", 223. Gabe Davis is 6'2", 224. The size is almost exactly the same. Says, Legette is a tight-hipped with linear release that makes him susceptible to press. Gabe Davis, all day right there. He's susceptible to press. He's got tight hips. He doesn't really run routes as that great. He uses his route running simply as a means of getting to the rendezvous point rather than a chance to con coverage out of position. Screams Gabe Davis to me. His star shines brightest once the ball goes up and he's able to use his body control, play strength, and ball skills to impose his will on coverage. That also sounds like Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is very good at imposing his will on coverage once it's him one-on-one with somebody. He's unlikely to become a smooth route runner. Gabe Davis. but he can handle tough catches and has stealth acceleration that makes him a credible deep ball threat. Also screams Gabe Davis. Toughness as a runner and run blocker to his profile of competitiveness, and he becomes a day 2 talent with potential developer as a starter, or potential development as a starter. I told y'all he sounds like Gabe Davis to me. Everything that they said right there about him says Gabe Davis, except for the fact that he catches better. Outside of that, sounds like Gabe Davis. Which to me, the catching thing is really the one thing that we hate about Gabe Davis. If Gabe Davis could catch the ball better, if Gabe Davis was a guy who could go out there and receive open targets on a regular basis, that's really the thing. That and the fact that him and Josh Allen are not in sync a lot of the time. Gabe Davis often will run outside when Josh is expecting to go in, or he'll run in and Josh is expecting to go out. That stuff is the stuff we hate about him. That and the fact that he drops too many passes. Those are the big deals. This guy doesn't drop so many passes. But the rest of his traits sound like Gabe Davis, and that's not a bad thing. So I know it sounds like a bad thing when I say that sounds like Gabe Davis. No, it's not a bad thing. Gabe Davis wasn't terrible at most things except for the short, intermediate route running and catching the ball when he was wide open. This guy sounds like that catching the ball while wide open is fixed. Like if you had Gabe Davis who was able to fix that, this guy fixes that, and that makes him so much better at wide receiver. Strengths, makes full use of his size and play strength in one-on-one battles. Beautiful. Owns his space and defender's space when catches contested. Beautiful, meaning, oh, you were there? Cool. You were going to catch that ball? No, I'm catching the ball. Love that. Magnificent timing and extension to snare throws up the ladder. A lot of these sound the same to me. I mean, up the ladder means he's going up to get it. The other two didn't say that, but if he's winning one-on-one battles, that means he's high pointing the ball, contested catches. You know, like him in the corner going up together to go get it. He climbs the ladder. Uses subtle hand fighting to create late landing space for the throw. I don't know what he means by that. I'm guessing that he gets to open spaces at times. So that way, when he does have to catch the ball, he's likely not being defended too harsh. Powerful hands create added catch security with or without contact, meaning you hit him or you don't hit him, he's still going to catch this ball. That sounds like DK Metcalf to me. Sneaky burst gear propels vertical separation and run after catch speed. Capable combatant when asked to do his part as a blocker, meaning he's a good enough run blocker. Weaknesses: can win the catch phase, but the release and route phase lack polish. That just means he needs to work on it. Tennessee's tight press man coverage was all over him for much of the game. Look, he plays for South Carolina. That team is not great. You know, with a good enough quarterback, you can get that ball in tight spaces. Granted, he was playing with Spencer Rattler, who is a solid quarterback. So he's like a 4th round graded quarterback, Spencer Rattler, 3rd or 4th round. So we'll see. Rushes through route design rather than selling it to the cornerbacks, meaning he's not really using his footwork to get himself open. He's just trying to power through everything. That's coachable. Below average quickness getting in and out of his breaks. I don't know how coachable that is, but if he fixes the one before that, this one right here should also be fixed. And he hits cruise control and waits for jump balls rather than keeping foot on the gas. I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing, because if the ball is short and you got to jump for it because you have a big corner like a Jalen Ramsey there, that might not be a bad thing. If you keep running, that ball's intercepted sometimes. So I don't know what he necessarily means by that. But Xavier Legette is a nice prospect in the late 2nd round, early 3rd. Let's see what we got here. Do you think we will grab a wide receiver first or a DT? It depends on who's available. Depends on who's available and whether Brandon Beane is willing to part ways with picks to go get a wide receiver. And that's got nothing to do with what I think about it. It's just dependent on it. Now, next, Xavier Worthy, another Xavier, University of Texas. I do prefer A.D. Mitchell from Texas, but, you know, beggars can't be choosers. And Xavier Worthy is fast. He might be running the 4.2s. He's really, really fast. He's not as big, though. He's only 6'1", 172. So he's going to have to depend on that speed at the NFL level because his physicality is not going to be there. He's going to have to be a guy who wins with his speed. He's from California. He's from Fresno. And his NFL comparison is Darnell Mooney, which I like, right? If you can't go and sign Darnell Mooney and you have a chance to draft one who's like him, Xavier Worthy is a guy you may look at. Now, Worthy's draft slotting could come down to draft room debates weighing his elite speed versus his frame. I was just talking about that. Worthy will find separation if allowed to explore vertically or across the hashes, vertically or across the hashes against man coverage. But he lacks the play strength and release quickness to defeat quality NFL press. That's concerning to me, which is why he's so low on the list. His quick strike potential adds an element of danger over the top and should open wider windows for teammates to work into. I like that, right? If you're not going to be able to be the guy who gets the ball, but if you can get around your defender and they have to focus two guys on you, you open up Diggs, you open up Shakir, you open up Kincaid, you open up Cook, and you open up Knox. That, to me, is a very positive thing. He lacks physical tools to catch when contested. He needs to prove he can hold up to a more physical brand of football. Worthy is a niche prospect for teams looking to add a legit field stretcher, but areas of concern could create wider gap between ceiling and floor. And that's all because of his size. Thing is, if he puts on some size, he may lose some of that speed. So his strengths are deep speed, create space. I'm going to shorten these up for the later guys. His separation is inevitable when routes ask him for less. He displays ball tracking improvements against Alabama and Houston. So against those two teams, Houston, I don't know why they even mentioned them because smaller school. I don't know how good they were. So the average person wouldn't really know what that means. We'd have to do the research on Houston. But we all know Alabama's about that life. He has bend and agility to run post corner and whip routes effectively, and there will be problems for defenses if he breaks a tackle after the catch because he's so fast. He may be a 4.27, 4.28 guy. He's so fast. So fast. But, you know, there were other fast guys in the NFL, like the guy that the Bengals drafted. Forget his name. John Ross, I think. He was fast. Didn't work out. So speed is a beautiful thing to have, but you have to be able to use it. Marquise Goodwin's another example of a fast guy who just never turned out to be that good. I mean, he's good enough to be on a roster. He's good enough to be your wide receiver 5, but he was never really that good. And if he got open, you know, it was dangerous. It was very dangerous. Man, Road Collins says, to be fair, Davis was only credited with 3 drops last season, but his consistency is what worried me. The crediting of drops to me is concerning because it seems disingenuous. Right? If the ball hits you in the hands and you drop it, and it wasn't like a fingertip deal, then that should be a drop, right? It should be a drop, unless the defender's there and like smacks out of your hands. Then it's a defended pass. Outside of that, it's a drop, and it's not just about drops, but it's also about the total amount of the targets that were thrown his way that he dropped. If Khalil Shakir can catch 87+% of the passes thrown his way, Gabe Davis, as number 2 guy, should be able to do more, and he didn't. He was only at 55% this year. Again. So I'm over it with Gabe Davis. Now, his weaknesses are he's thin and lacking functional strength. He needs to improve his efficiency and quickness getting off the ball. He lacks the hand strength and gets bullied on contested catches. He takes reps off when he's not expecting to throw, meaning that if Josh Allen is out there and he's making magic with his feet, he may not be a guy who's looking for space. We need him to look for space. So this guy's not for me. And he fails to adjust his speed to ball placement consistently, meaning that he may overrun the pass that's thrown to him, or he may not get to the ball because he just didn't really calculate where he was going to be at the time of the pass. So some concerns. John Roberts says Xavier Worthy 42940 internet says so there are no official 40s. I think you're getting that from NFL Draft Buzz. That's an estimate, which cool. I said 4.2s, so I think he'll run more of a 4.27, 4.28, but we're splitting hairs at that point. All right, we're splitting hairs. So, but he is blazing fast. I think Tyreek Hill ran a 4.28, 4.29. So there's that. You know, that's elite speed. It's elite speed. See, I'm not advocating to bring Gabe Davis back. Just saying I think fans can be too harsh on him. Hope he does well elsewhere. Me too. I'm not praying against Gabe Davis or hoping that he doesn't do well elsewhere. I'm saying that his play was not a fit here. Was not a fit here for this team. So there's that. All right, Robbie. Hey, Izzy, man. Go Sabres. Go Sabres, buddy. I saw they just scored a little bit ago. One of our comments that said that. Now, next receiver and final receiver has a very familiar name. His name is Brendan Rice, son of Hall of Famer and the greatest wide receiver of all time, Jerry Rice. I don't care what you say. Jerry Rice is that guy. Roy Collins says, no more Gabe talk. Hey, you can talk about Gabe if you want to. I'm all for it. Do what you got to do. I'm not here to silence you or censor you. You talk about whatever you want to, and if I got to address it, I will. But I like Gabe. I just don't think he's a fit here. That's it. No shade at him. So Brendan Rice, son of Jerry Rice, 6'2", 212 pounds. Looked at as a third, maybe fourth round pick, I think, pre-draft. He may actually, I think some people have him as a second round pick. His combine is really going to set that for him. And his NFL comparison is Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is not exactly a superstar. So that's the comparison, though. So it doesn't mean that he's not going to be a superstar. We'll see what happens. But the bloodlines don't get much better than Jerry Rice. So Brendan Rice might have a head start on the rest of the field. He's big and plays physically. When cornerbacks want to fight over space, he lacks sudden feet, though, so he's not quick out of his breaks. Beating press cleanly and separating on short routes could be a challenge as a pro. Coach that up. He got it. Rice possesses good build-up speed to create deep ball opportunities once his ball skills are added to the equation, meaning he's faster at the end of his movement. He's not so fast off the line, but he's very fast going down. His top speed's probably up there. Rice catches with quick, strong hands and good extension to help with frequent contested catches, and there are some limitations at play, but he has enough check marks to project as an early backup with some upward mobility, meaning he could potentially be a starter somewhere. Strengths. He's a touchdown maker, they're saying. Every 5.2 catches is a touchdown. So there's that. Works aggressively back to the throw and scrambles open for his passer. That right there screams a fit for the Buffalo Bills. That strength right there. Works aggressively back to the throw and scrambles open for his passer. That's what we're looking for. That right there. Good job of setting up corners when breaking off short slants. So he's good in the short and intermediate. Shows ability to make route cuts as sharp angles on the move. Sounds like he's a good route runner. He must get that from his father. He must practice a lot in his own time. Excellent physicality at the top of the route to open catch doors. Sounds like a no-brainer to me. He's very physical at the top of his route. And he outworks and outreaches to competition on 50-50 balls. So he's working harder to get that ball than that DB is. Weaknesses. Below average foot quickness. Okay. Drive phase of the route is choppy. Okay. Inconsistent positioning to protect contested catches. He needs to consistently play as fast as he will test. Okay. Meaning that his play speed doesn't look like it's going to be as fast as his test speeds. And he has trouble gaining and maintaining separation underneath. Something they can work on. But if he's so good at slants, how's that true? I don't know. But Brendan Rice, last of the receivers. Hopefully the rest of the positions go faster than that because that's crazy. That's crazy. Sabres are still allowed to play hockey. Let's go. Second round. Okay, so you're saying that Brendan Rice is a second-round receiver. I'm fine with that. If he's the guy, he's the guy. He has a lot of traits that I believe the Bills are looking for. So I'm okay with that. We don't get a guy in the first round. Brendan Rice is a guy I'm okay with after reading that. See, I hope the Bills get 2 fast wide receivers in this draft and signs a good, cheap veteran. That would be the ideal situation for the Buffalo Bills. But we'll see. Now, the next position I'm being a little bit less realistic with the early guys, but you never know. You never know. The first guy, most likely, definitely not on the board for the Buffalo Bills. And we're talking about edge defenders now, edge rushers, whatever you want to call them, defensive ends. We're a 4-3 team for us, defensive ends for us. 3-4 is linebackers. The first guy is Laiatu Latu from UCLA. Most likely he's off the board, top 10, top 15. He is a talent. His comp is TJ Watt. The guy's an animal. He is 6'5", 261. He looks mean in this picture. If you guys get a chance to look at this guy, he looks mean. Lance Zierlein has him comp to TJ Watt. And it says Latu possesses a kind of rare maturity to his game that you usually see from NFL veterans. He rarely stays blocked by tackles as a run defender and dominates blocking tight ends on the collegiate level. His pass rush approach is both well conceived and instinctive, and he's brilliant at taking possessions of the rep using clever hands and slippery angles to pry open opportunities. His eyes play beyond blockers, and he feeds off a voracious motor that keeps him pushing forward as a run defender or pass rusher. Concerns surrounding his neck injury while at Washington will certainly come into play when he gets to medical exams, but his durability and play at UCLA are certainly promising. Everything about Latu's skill set and production is translatable to the NFL, and he could become a Pro Bowler as a 3-4 outside linebacker with a heavy influence on the game. The fact that they're calling him a 3-4 outside linebacker doesn't mean he can't play 4-3 end, but that's his preferred spot. Most likely for his skill set is 3-4 outside linebacker. Von Miller's is 2, and he had 9 sacks for us, or 8 sacks for us before getting injured. I know some people don't want to hear Von's name, but you'll get over it. Strengths, menacing portfolio, Mensa level usage of hands and slaps, swats, rips, counters, and stabs. Motor and strength to drive through, redirect blocks. Times up bull rush to attack tackles, change of weight distribution. That's hard to teach sometimes, that timing. Quick win rusher when allowed to reduce inside against guards. Brutish take on typically eliminates blocking tight ends in short order. Stacks and sheds blockers with good timing to sink into runbacks. And has the athletic ability to drop and swerve in short area coverage. Sounds pretty elite. Weaknesses, medical concerns surrounding his neck. Frame build-out and body type are average. So what? Legs straighten out during rush engagement, robbing him of leverage. Plays with good power but doesn't carry a firm anchor against the run. And pursuit speed to boundary or sideline is very average. Sounds like he was looking for things wrong, but he couldn't find anything really. And to me, that's kind of a reach on those negatives. But Latu is likely not there for us in the first round. He's gone. He's out of there. He's probably one of the only unrealistic guys on here. The next guy may be unrealistic as well, but we'll see. And that's Dallas Turner from Bama, defensive end. Dallas Turner, 6'4", 245. His comp is Brian Burns, long and athletic with explosive traits. Needs to become an impact NFL pass rusher, meaning this guy has the natural frame and ability to do what he has to do to become a impactful NFL pass rusher. His build is kind of like a Khalil Mack, but his comparison is Brian Burns, which is still awesome. Brian Burns is awesome. He still needs to work on his process from point A to point B. So I'm guessing he doesn't take proper angles sometimes. He hasn't learned to create the space and angles to. I just said that. Boom. He needs to consistently attack the edges, but that should come with better hand development and more diversified approach. A team would be wise to widen him out and allow him a better runway to ignite his burst. Was he a fighter jet? And overwhelm tackles with his speed. He's added 20 pounds since coming to Alabama, so he was like 220 pounds when he got to Bama. Holy shoot. I mean, 20 pounds in 4 years isn't crazy, but 220 coming out of high school to play end? Man. Struggles at times to stack and shed run blockers or set the firm edge. Firm's frame and game speed are much less developed than Will Anderson Jr.'s coming out of Bama last year, so it could take him some time to make his mark as a starting 3-4 outside linebacker. So again, another guy projects at outside linebacker. I'm not going to go that much more into it. I'm not going to go much more into it at all. He's likely not our guy. Now, the next guy we're looking at I really liked, and I've mocked them to the Bills already. We did it yesterday when we mocked the Bills on Off the Edge with Shoot. Braylon Trice from Washington. His comp, he didn't have one. They didn't have a comp for him. When I looked at his size, when I looked at his ability and the way he works, I came to DeMarcus Lawrence. After watching some tape, DeMarcus Lawrence is what I came back to. And so, that being said, his overview by Lance Zierlein is as such. Team captain, meaning he's a leader, with good size, who is well liked by his teammates and coaching staff. I don't care about none of that. I don't care about none of that. Never mind. I care about that some. Team captain, I care about. Well liked is another thing. You can not like somebody, but respect them. Respected by his teammates would be much more interesting to me. There are plenty of people I didn't like, but I respected. Respect is far more important than like. Oh, well, I like you, but I can like you and not respect you. That's the thing. Like, I can like your personality, but I'm like, man, that guy's got some views. I ain't with it. But he's super nice to me, so I like him. This could be better written, I think. Trice isn't going to be the most skilled edge defender. I don't like that. But he parlays urgency and effort into impressive production. So, what he lacks in skill, he makes up for it with his motor. Effort and urgency, that tells me that he is able to say, you know what? I might not have the swim move, might not have the rip, I might not have the club, but I'm relentless in getting to the quarterback. I'm relentless in getting to the running back. He carries a thick frame but lacks juice as an edge rusher and fails to stack and control tackles as a run defender. Sounds kind of like AJ Epinesa to me. He's a better fit in gaming fronts that allow him to play on the move, because AJ Epinesa is really solid as a pass rusher, but he's not really good as a run stopper. But he might lack the athleticism and explosiveness needed to carry his production to the next level. Trice's try-hard demeanor and play strength give him a chance to become a decent backup and in a 4-3 defense. I think he could be a decent starter. I think that his comp of DeMarcus Lawrence I gave could actually be closer to a AJ Epinesa. We'll see. Although AJ Epinesa had a much more glaring overview coming out of college, I think, if I remember correctly. So he plays with a sense of urgency on every snap. He gains momentum and eludes blocks, looping inside on twists. His rush motor allows him to collect second effort sacks. I like that. Try again, and you shall succeed. His size to constrict the pocket on the top of the rush is big enough. He plays under opponents' pads, getting to the point of attack, meaning that he does not allow the offensive lineman to get under him. He gets under them. That means that he's going to have a decent bull rush, maybe a second effort bull rush, but a bull rush nonetheless. And he takes shots into the B gap to disrupt run plays, which I do like. It means he's able to jump inside instead of being a C gap guy all the time. Tightness in hips and ankles diminishes bull rush. Okay. Below average length, missing explosive short area movement, poor acceleration to chase and slow wide flowing runs. And he plays with his eyes and attention on blocker far too long. Meaning he's not looking beyond the blocker to where the play is actually happening. He's busy trying to get his job done. That's where the second effort part comes in. So I like him. I don't like him in the first round. Now that I've read that. Says, hello, I have a question. Who do you think will win the championship league in football this year? Okay, this is clearly a bot of some sort. Bye-bye. Sorry, but I will not tolerate bots in my chat. Will not tolerate them. I will not. So, Braylon Trice, if we move back to the second round, all for it. We will see how he grades out too. That will jump his prospects up and down. As of right now, that tells me he's a second round pick, like AJ Epinesa. I comped him to DeMarcus Lawrence, but probably more of an AJ Epinesa type. Next on the list, I'm probably going to like him more. You're probably going to like him more than the last guy, but I'm not sure if I see him being available, and that is Chop Robinson from Penn State University. He also didn't have a comp, even though he's one of the top defensive ends in the draft. But I comped him to Von Miller. Von Miller, 6'3", 250. He's 6'3", 255. They comped him to Micah Parsons. I can see that, but I don't see him doing everything Micah Parsons does. Lance Zierlein's overview is edge defender who offers a type of elite athleticism we've seen from players like Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett. He's not their size, though. He's not Myles Garrett's size, at least. Myles Garrett's huge. Robinson might not be as fast as Parsons, which is why I comp him more to Von Miller. So everybody's close. He's ultra twitchy, like Von Miller, with explosiveness to get on top of blockers and overwhelm them in an instant. However, we will need to level up his hand skills and attempt angles to reach his potential against NFL tackles. When he said tackles, they mean the position. It was not capitalized here, so capitalize your positions, boy. Let's go. Robinson's electric athletic traits alone should give him a floor as a good NFL starter if he crafts a rush approach and learns the string moves countered together. He could reach his ceiling as a destructive force capable of forcing teams to game plan around him. Von Miller. He'll be more likely a mid-first round guy, but if he lasts to the Bills, it's going to be hard to not draft him. Strengths, possessions, rare explosiveness and speed. Plays with natural leverage and powerful leg drive. Wicked pursuit speed reduces speed for outside runners. So they see him coming around the bend and they're like, oh shoot, maybe I should cut inside. Bad idea. Able to do battle with big tackles and still set a firm edge. So he sets the edge well. He does both pass rush and run defense good. Sounds like Von Miller. Sounds like Leonard Floyd, honestly. Slant quickness creates opportunity to disrupt play design. Okay. Tears out his stance like a track sprinter. Exceptional lower body flexion to dip way low. That's awesome. It sounds like Aiden Hutchinson to me. And finesse tackles without a true anchor. Awesome traits. That puts him ahead of Braylon Trice to me. I don't think he'll be there when we pick, but if he is, you run to the podium. Unless the receiver that you want is there, which would be Brian Thomas or Troy Franklin. If one of them is there, you jump at the opportunity. But if they're not and Chop Robinson's there, you go get Chop. Weaknesses, relatively modest production totals. Needs to work on technique, inconsistent keeping his feet. Hands and feet lack harmony, and still learning to set up tackles and create his itinerary in the pocket. Don't know what they mean by that. Is he talking about like where he's supposed to go and how to get there? I'm not sure. That's what it sounds like, but I'm not positive. Chop Robinson, not realistic, in my opinion. We'll see after the combine. Braden McGregor from Michigan. Braden McGregor is a defensive end. He is 6'5", 263. I comped him to Greg Rousseau. His play style screams Greg Rousseau to me. It just does. McGregor has good size and length for a stand-up rusher. He is 6'5", 263 pounds, so close to Rousseau coming out of college. Teams would like the frame and toughness, but he's not a natural knee bender. At the attack point, there's room for better hand placement, and as a run defender, Greg Rousseau is a really good run defender. Hand skills as a pass rusher. That felt like Greg Rousseau coming as a rookie. He won't overwhelm opponents with twitch or short area quickness, so it might be important for McGregor to keep adding play strength in order to become more willful challenger as a backup edge in odd and even fronts. So that tells me one thing. He's a lot like Rousseau. Like Rousseau put on weight as time went on in order to build up to become a better pass rusher and edge defender or rush defender. He's starting to be a better rush defender than the pass rusher Greg Rousseau has so far. Excuse me, but we'll see. I'm clicking through these guys now. We're going a little faster now. Let's see. Next one is I think I have his name wrong on here, so I'm going to correct it. I'm about to correct it right now. And corrected. Last defensive end on the list is Chris Braswell from Alabama. They didn't have a comp for him either. No comp. So when I looked at his frame and I looked at his skill set, I came away with Odafe Owe, also known as Jason Owe from Penn State. He played at Bama. He's a guy that I think the Bills could realistically go after and draft. I like the cut of his jib. I'll tell you that. He's an edge defender with good size and length, but limited playing time over his 4 years at Bama. Braswell chose to stick it out at Bama rather than transferring and was rewarded with a productive final campaign. He doesn't play with great technique or anchor as an edge setter and is average in taking in line tight ends, right? So he's average at playing against tight ends, and that screams to me Odafe Owe. Odafe Owe, if you give him just the tackle, usually he's pretty good. Put a tight end on him, they can chip him pretty easy, and he's less effective. As a pass rusher, he gets off the ball with good burst and he uses a variety of moves, speeds and angles to create opportunities, but needs to add counters to his approach. Braswell might have a ceiling as a good 3-4 backup or average designated pass rusher with a core special teams value. So he's going to be down the line. You're looking at him like the 5th round probably. But if the Bills are able to retain A.J. Epinesa, you have Greg Rousseau, you have Von Miller, you have Kingsley Jonathan, you're not looking to add a potential starter at that point or even a potential 3rd man up. You're looking for a 4th man up, maybe. Right? Especially if you bring back a Shaq Lawson, too. If you bring back a Shaq Lawson, you have your top 4. You have Von Miller, you have A.J. Epinesa, you have Greg Rousseau, you have Shaq Lawson, which means you have a mix of pass rushers / run stoppers right there. Then you have this kid and then Kingsley Jonathan. To me, that completes your room of defensive ends. I'm all for that if he's a late round guy. We don't necessarily have to go defensive end early, but a defensive end early would mean that the Buffalo Bills have done their due diligence in free agency, and that's where they're at. All right. Comments have slowed down. Come on, guys. I know this show is mostly about what I feel about it, but you guys feel free to jump in the comments. Now, going into a new position, defensive tackle. Now, this is a position that the Bills really do have potential of taking in the 1st round. They really do. And every single one of these guys that I put in here, I only put big guys, right? So I had a criteria. The receivers were guys that I thought would fit the Bills and what they were going to do at receiver. The defensive ends were guys who I thought the Bills couldn't pass on, including the 3-4 guys, or fit exactly what the Buffalo Bills would want in defensive end. Defensive tackle, I did the same thing. Exactly what they would want in defensive end, which is over 300 pounds. A big, fat bastard to play 1 tech. Maybe play some 3 tech also if they're on the smaller size. Now we're going to go over these guys. There's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, burgers and fries. And the first one seems to be Bills Mafia's favorite defensive tackle in the draft, and that is T'Vondre Sweat, University of Texas. This boy is a big mamma jamma. He's a big boy. Big boy. And T'Vondre Sweat, boy oh boy, 6'4", 362 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal. And his NFL comparison, I only put Vita Vea there, but they also compared him to Sam Adams. And if you're an old enough Bills fan, you remember Sam Adams rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling his big butt into the end zone after intercepting, I believe it was Tom Brady. That boy was big. He had no business. You go ahead and get on YouTube. And YouTube, if you have not seen it, if you're a younger Bills fan and you just aren't old enough to remember that, Google Sam Adams interception for touchdown, and he looks like Vince Wilfork running with a loaf of bread. It's freaking crazy. Like, that is a big dude. He should not be doing that. His comp is crazy. So I think they need DT the most because Ed Oliver is the only one signed. I agree with you, John Robert, and that's why I said defensive end is not a position that I see us necessarily needing to go with in the 1st round, but it is a position of need. And I only put positions of real need in this scenario because – not scenario, but in this combine preview, because these are the guys that Bills fans should be looking at to see where they project, right? Because if a guy you looked at and you were like, I want him in the first round. I want him in the first round, like Troy Franklin. But if he runs a 4.55, you're like, I don't want him in the first round. But if he falls to round 2, I still want him. This gives you perspective based on that. Like, these are guys that could fit the bills, in my opinion, right? And so defensive tackle is a thing. But let's say freaking what's his name? T'Vondre Sweat goes out there and he only puts up 20 reps on the bench, right? He's 362 pounds. He just put up 35 freaking reps. He only puts up 20. Second round pick. Makes it easier for the Bills to say, you know what, the hell with it. We're going wide receiver round 1, and we'll try and jump up in the second round if we have to go get T'Vondre. So be it. So this just shows about that. Now, I'll get more into that later, but that's where I'm at with that, is that T'Vondre Sweat is a guy who, if he moves out there and he puts up 335 on the bench and he tests well in the movement skills, he's jumping from second to third round, where he's projected right now, to a first-round defensive tackle. Late first, early second. If he blows the doors off that place, we might have a hard time getting him at 28. So we'll see. But he's a big man. He's a big man. And his overview by Lance Zierlein says, Sweat is a massive space eater whose size and skill will have him plugged into a role as a run plugger for odd or even front defenses. I mean, he can play 3-4 or 4-3. He'll be a nose tackle in 3-4, and he'll be a 1-tech in a 4-3. He's not quick off the snap or explosive into first contact, but it takes a village to try to uproot him, meaning you don't have to double and triple team this big boy right here. Let's go, big guy, and move him out of the way. The attention he will require from blocking schemes should help unlock the playmaking potential of speedy inside linebackers. I don't know who that sounds like. Does that sound like Terrell Bernard? Sounds like Terrell Bernard being assisted by this big fat bastard in front of him. Playmaking potential of speedy inside linebackers who won't have to contend with as much traffic climbing into the second level. He offers more rush than expected as a man his size and play more snaps than most at his position. Sweat's area of impact will be narrowly focused, but it could create much larger impact on the defense overall. I see him playing more on rundowns. So if you bring back Daquan Jones, you're going to see Daquan Jones on more of the obvious passing downs, and you'll see T'Vondre Sweat in there as more of a run-stuffing defensive tackle who's going to make runners go outside, which then sets up our very good outside defensive end, edge rushers, whatever you want to call them, to be able to close those gaps on the outside, to be able to close out and seal the rush. So that way Milano, Taron Johnson, and Terrell Bernard can clean up if those guys get past them. But if they don't, then our edge setters should be able to go out there and clean up, because this big fat bastard's out there making these guys run to the outside. Plus, Ed Oliver gets really good interior penetration. So if you got two guys, getting this guy plus another guy chipping on rundowns, Ed Oliver should become much more of a force, which to me screams the Bills need to go after him. I like this kid, T'Vondre Sweat. I like this kid a lot. A lot. Now, next on my list of defensive tackles is Dwayne Carter out of Duke. He didn't have a comp, so I looked at his skill set, I looked at his size, and I came to the conclusion that he reminds me of Tyson Alualu. He's 6'2", 308 pounds, so he's not super tall. About average stature for the position, 308 pounds. You could also say maybe a Ndamukong Suh type, but Ndamukong was a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. So I don't know if I want to necessarily compare him to that, who was also, all pro at times and, many Pro Bowls, but I like the spot, right? So this guy will be more of a second to third round pick. Lance Zierlein says 3-time team captain. I like that leadership on the defensive line with undisputed leadership ability to go with his production. Carter is the best suited for a one-gapping scheme that allows him to utilize his foot agility and upfield mentality. He plays with bend and leverage, but is average at holding his ground against power. He plays with bend and leverage, but is average at holding his ground against power. Issues mirroring initial lateral movement from blockers is a concern against zone-based rushing attacks, while he doesn't have jarring rush production, meaning he's not a big power guy. He might be more talented pass rusher than run defender on the pro level. Thanks to his bull rush and lateral quickness, Carter has the ability to become a good rotational piece in a 4-3 scheme. If you keep Daquan Jones and you can't get to T'Vondre Sweat, this guy is a fit for this team. Strengths: plays with energy and active feet. Drives off the snap with force and leverage. Good technique to stack and play off the block. Disguises his desire to jump step and use club move. Bull rush can be salty as interior rusher, and he doesn't often use it, but he has a workable spin counter. So he's got a little bit of Dwight Freeney in him. He doesn't often use the spin counter, but apparently he's got a mean one. So there's that. Weaknesses: too easily beaten to the spot. Needs to play with better anticipation. Can be pushed off the spot by powerful single blocks. So if he plays Quentin Nelson, it's going to be hard. That's for everybody. Fails to maintain ideal separation to prevent being neutralized, and he needs to find a counter to improve his secondary rush of the bull rush. To me, screams third-round pick. Those things can be overcome, but Dwayne Carter's a guy I like. If you don't get one in the first or second round, third-round pick, snatch him up. So go to the comments, baby. See, DT, wide receiver, third-round pick, best available. I go best available no matter what. You know, the Bills have needs, so if a guy if they don't have a position of need there, trading back to me is the no-brainer, right? Trade back because you need more players anyway, right? So if Troy Franklin's not there, T'Vondre Sweat's not there, Brian Thomas isn't there, Chop Robinson's not there, none of the things that you need is there in the first round. It's time to get out of there. Brandon Beane doesn't like to overspend. He doesn't like to reach. He doesn't like to give more than what his value is for somebody there, right? If he's got a first round grade on you at 28, who gives a shit? Who gives it? No one does. So what do you do? You trade back so that way you can get the right value for the pick. That's how Brandon Beane evaluates the draft. If he's got to move up for somebody, and he can, then he probably will. I don't see him doing it this year because he really, really needs to get younger and better. And that's where I stand on that. Now, next player, let's see. It should be the best available, but Beane likes to target certain players and positions. He does. There's no denying that. He does. He likes to target defense, specifically defensive tackles and defensive backs, for the most part, early in the draft. He also likes to target, generally speaking, running backs second, third, fourth round. He likes to target tight ends third round, but he did go after Kincaid first round because that's just a unique talent that he was like, gotta have it. But DB, defensive end, he likes to target those early. Defensive tackle, he likes to target early. His early picks are among the linemen, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So you're not wrong. You're not wrong. He generally speaking likes to go after defensive backs later in the draft. You know what I'm saying? Beane has drafted defensive tackle in several years. Honestly, the only defensive tackle I can remember him drafting is Ed Oliver. I don't remember any other defensive tackle, but he did draft AJ Epinesa, Greg Rousseau, Boogie Basham, all defensive linemen on the edge. So if you mean defensive line, you are correct. He has done it several years in a row. In fact, in 3 straight years, he went defensive line 4 picks in a row. Ed Oliver, then AJ Epinesa. It was a second-round pick, but it was our first pick because he traded up. Right? Or no, it was AJ Epinesa, then Ed Oliver. Then he went with Rousseau and then Boogie Basham in the same draft. So if you look at the whole scope of it, defensive line in general has been a favorite among them. They've only been here 7 years, and more than half those years, in 4 years, it's been a defensive line player. 3 years, and 4 of the top, 2 picks. It's crazy. It's crazy. He does like to go after offensive linemen in the second and third round, though. So he likes to go after, was it Cody Ford? They went after, Deion Dawkins was McDermott's first year, so that was a McDermott thing. And then he went to Spencer Brown in the 3rd round. But yeah, they have a range where they like specific positions, and they go defensive back in the later rounds usually. They did go after Kyrie Elam in the 1st round, but we really needed one. He was the last guy that had a 1st-round grade, but they weren't running anything that Kyrie Elam was used to running. Also, he had beef, it seems like, with the defensive backs coach, who is no longer with us. He's now moving on to another team. So a lot to be said with their thing, but defense is clearly what they do. I just hope he trades down. You and me both. I'm pro trade down. I'm pro get more picks. He does excellent job drafting rounds 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, Dane Jackson, I believe, was a 7th-round pick. He was a manageable starter for us at times. Highest drafted wide receiver was Gabe Davis in the 4th. True. Needs to change. Because before that, highest drafted corner was Taron Johnson in the 4th as well. Then he went Kyrie Elam, round 1. So there's a need for change. And the highest drafted tight end was Dawson Knox in the 3rd. Change is inevitable. And there's no use in being afraid of the inevitable. Now, moving on to the next player. Jordan Jefferson, defensive tackle, LSU. Another big boy, 6'3", 323 pounds. Didn't have a comp. I looked at his size and skill set, and I came back with Linval Joseph. Reminds me a lot of that guy. Jefferson has the proportional frame with a good upper body thickness. His game against Alabama was discouraging. Linval Joseph not always steps up against the best of competition, but against average to below average competition, played pretty well in his career. Was often overwhelmed at the point of attack by the size and power of the Crimson Tide. However, it is hard to ignore his first step quickness and ability to shoot into the backfield as a run play disruptor. Teams will need to invest the time to get him stronger and improve his take-on technique. He might be worth a draft and stash for one-gapping teams willing to put developmental work into him, meaning he's probably a 5th-round pick. Although his description does kind of remind me of Starlo Talele as well. Not really great against the pass, but against the run, he just ate space. And not necessarily with the Bills, not in his later years with the Bills. But his first couple years with the Bills and his time with the Panthers, Starlo Talele was that guy. Strengths. Cat quick first step launches him into neutral zone. Lateral footwork to mirror zone blockers and scuttle cutbacks. Effective use of push-pull technique to dismiss centers. Moves with above average quickness. So he's disrupting centers. He's a one tech. He's a one tech or a nose tackle. Moves with above average quickness in short area pursuit. Has the get off to become a more productive rusher with work. So he might be a guy that you're going to bring in here. And he's going to be like the 4th defensive tackle. And he's going to rotate in. Kind of what we're looking for. We're not looking for somebody to start if you bring back Daquan Jones. We're looking for somebody to rotate in and give Daquan Jones a break. Weaknesses, technique and footwork. Allows blockers to crowd his chest. Needs to do a better job of leveraging his run fits. Messy contact balance and anchor against double teams. And needs to improve his hand usage as run defender and pass rusher. Could have just said needs to improve his hand usage. What are the 2 things that you do? Run defense and pass rush. He's a defensive lineman. He's not in coverage. Come on, Lance. Better than that, baby. You're better than that. Now, Jordan Jefferson, late round pick. The last 2 guys are also late round picks if we go after them. Let's see. I can see the Patriots, Washington, or Cardinals trading up for 28. I don't know if I want to give the Patriots number 28. No offense. But, I mean, if there's nobody there that we see fitting, then who cares? Jordan Jefferson in the 4th or 5th. We need DTs on cheap contracts as well. I am with you there. His description of what he is completely fits what the Bills' narrative is at defensive tackle. You get a guy right now who can be your defensive tackle 3 or 4, maybe even defensive tackle 5. You bring back Daquan Jones. You have Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones. You bring back another guy, maybe a Puna Ford or Linval Joseph if they'll come back, to rotate in as well. Or you draft another one earlier, like a 3rd or 4th round pick. Yeah. You're saying 4th or 5th here. Kyle Williams was a 5th round pick, and he had a similar look, but he wasn't near that size though. So splitting hairs there. But wouldn't be terrible to get this guy in the 4th, 5th round and just shore up the guys behind. Right, you got to get younger on this team. We're like the second or third oldest team in the NFL this past year. Might have even been the first oldest team. Like average age of player like 27 years old. It's crazy. Time to get younger, baby boy. Next one, Jaden Crometti from Mississippi State. His player comp for me was Justin Jones. And this guy is a big boy as well. Not super huge. He's only 3'9", 310, 6'4". He didn't have a comp, so I did my digging. He's a 4-year starter with adequate size and impressive power, so good power at point of attack. Crometti plays with a top-notch pad level, off the snap and through the rep. He's not quick enough to consistently play into gaps, but does feature quality knockback pop and can handle himself against double teams. I'm actually starting to like this guy more than the last guy, minus the size. He's slightly below average as a pass rusher. Not worried about that. That's what Ed Oliver's for. This guy's here to eat blocks and play the run. But above average as a run defender and should continue to impress with better technique. Crometti has the potential to become a rotational lineman in odd and even fronts. That's the same thing about saying. Strengths for your starter. Don't know that's the strength. That just means that he played a lot. Could be a weakness. He could have less tread in the tires left. He could have a short career, 6-8 years. Maintains proper pad level and features jolting knockback power. Love that. Good transition from anchor to quick disengagement. You could actually have this guy gain 5 or 6 pounds to be the ideal weight. And he'd be right around Daquan Jones's weight at 315. Good transition to anchor from quick disengagement to tackle ball carriers. Possesses physical tools to align as interior defender in even or out. Yeah. Okay, this is basically going over his overview again. Shows ability to dent the pocket with pure power. That's awesome. Consistent in mirroring pocket movements of the passer. Okay. So almost similar to being a spy, but if you're playing against a Jalen Hurts, not really. But could also fill gaps against rushing quarterbacks. Occasionally lacks control when charging forward. Needs to develop his hands. Below average feel and attack. Not enough snap quickness. And below average rush plan and gets stuck on pass blockers too often. Sounds again like a 5th round pick to me. But I wouldn't be mad at it. Last defensive tackle, Myles Murphy from UNC. Now, I've mocked him to the Bills before. He actually did not have a player comp either. So I comped him to Jaron Reed of the Seattle Seahawks. Not a bad player to comp to. I'd say 5th or 6th round. Again, we don't really need a defensive tackle that much, but we do need to add to the position because we don't have anybody on the roster right now. But so it is a needed position, but it's not needed for the production standpoint unless you don't get back a Daquan Jones or unless you don't sign somebody. If you do sign someone, then you want to go after that Devondre Sweat. Overview: an interior defender with good size. Murphy lacks a consistent batting average when it comes to defeating blocks and making plays. Murphy appears heavier and slower than he had previously. I hope it's not due to an injury or something like that. And his sphere of influence has shrunk accordingly. He doesn't play with good power, but lack of power body bend makes it harder for him to anchor and hold his spot consistently. He's not much of a pass rusher, so he will need to play with more consistency at the point of attack in order to make a roster as a backup interior defender. This is a 7th round pick, in my opinion. It's a 7th round pick. But again, at this point, if we bring back Daquan Jones, we're looking for somebody later on. See, keep an eye. Okay, I already saw it one before that. Keep an eye on defensive tackle Christian Boyd, Northern Iowa, 6'2", 320 pounds. He was a real stud at the East-West Shrine game, day 3 guy. Okay. I'm going to look him up, and I'll see what I find on him after. But I don't know if he's at the Combine, and that's probably why he wasn't here. Let me see. Defensive tackle. Let me see if I can pull him up real quick. I'm down to clown, baby boy. Let's do it. Christian Boyd. Let's see if he's a combine invite. Nope, he's not invited to the combine, so that's why he's not here. Remember, this show is specifically on the combine, so not to insult, but this show right here. But I will check out his tape and I'll see what I see. I might do a short or something on it. And there you go. You said it, not the combine. All right. So that was our last defensive tackle, Miles Murphy. Not a lot to say about him. His grades on the season look like he's going to be a 7th-round pick, maybe even an undrafted rookie free agent. I'd love to bring him in at that. So, safety, our final position. We all know that Micah Hyde is probably going to retire. We all know that Micah Hyde, even if he doesn't retire, is probably not coming back to the Bills. We already have dead money on the cap from him, so he'd basically have to play for free. And that's not smart, especially when you have a neck like he's got, all the injuries. Please, Micah, for your family, retire. I love you. I love watching you play. You're one of my favorite players that I've got to see play in my life. There's a time and place for everything. The time to retire is now. I want you to go out and be with your family. You have been awesome, and I know that you will not forget Buffalo, and Buffalo will never, ever, 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 Micah Hyde, forget you. You have been an inspiration to this team. You have been an inspiration to this fan base. You have been a beloved part of Bills Mafia, and you will continue to do so going forth from this point forward. But I worry for your health. I don't worry for you as a player. I think that Micah Hyde as a player can still put in another year, maybe 2, and be productive. He's not the same guy he was, but he can still be productive. This past year, he graded very well in PFF, but you can tell the speed was somewhat diminished. And the neck injuries keep stacking up. And I don't want to see him go out bad. I don't want to see him go out bad. I want to see Micah Hyde, for his family's sake, for his own sake, know that we love you. We know you love us. Go take care of your kids. Be with your wife. Be with your family. Come back to Buffalo every year, every week. Become a coach here. I'm for any of that. I'd love to see Micah Hyde be a assistant safeties coach or assistant secondary coach, come to the Bills and contribute to this team in any way he can. I just don't want to see him go out bad. Those are the worst things where you see a player who was elite at his position, all pro, Pro Bowl, just turn his story from rags to riches and then go out sad. That's just not. It's not the way. It's not the way. And so, for my heartfelt words to Micah Hyde, I just hope he doesn't take that as disrespectful or insulting, because I'm not trying to be. I'm trying to be as genuine as possibly can. I was in the Army for a long time. I got out way later than I should have, and I'm a disabled veteran, 100% total and permanent for it. Don't do that. Don't do that. When your body tells you it's time to go, go. You only get one neck. You only get one back. 2 legs, 2 arms. Do what you gotta do. And that's where I'll leave that. It's because I don't want to beat this dead horse. John Roberts says, yes, Micah should retire for family. He should retire for himself, for his family, for his children. He's not retiring for the Bills. He could definitely come back and play a productive year for the Bills. It's not the point. It's not the point. So, first player on the board. A lot of guys at Built in Buffalo love this guy and would absolutely love to see the Bills take him in the first round. I am against a safety in the first round 99% of the time, unless there's like a Kyle Hamilton out there. If there's not that, then no. But the comp this guy gets from Lance Zierlein, pretty freaking good. Still a pretty good player in the NFL. And that's Tyler Nubin from Minnesota. And his comp is Marcus Williams, who is currently, I believe, on the Baltimore Ravens, formerly of the New Orleans Saints. And he has been an outstanding safety in the NFL. He is 6'2", 210 pounds. So he's got that build to give that thump. He's got that build to give that thump. Talented safety prospect with the size, length, and instincts that teams are looking for to shore up the back end. Nubin has the ability to play as an interchangeable safety, but will make his money as a ball thief. I could be wrong about this guy. His rangy over the top and too high in safety looks and plays chess in the middle of the field, using instincts to think along with the quarterback and pounce on on throws from an angle. He's average in man coverage and might lack ideal top end speed, but his anticipation and discipline help make up for that. He's capable in run support, but his pursuit angles get him beat outside. Nubin's traits, instincts, and ball skills give him an opportunity to become a successful long-term starter. I could be wrong, but I still have him in the second round. I could be wrong. Strengths, has the size, length, and instincts. Plays with predatory mentality. Shades coverage to route development and the quarterback's eyes. High-end ball tracker with ball skills to flip the field. Athletic and light on his feet. Operates with good field balance and uses length and agility to expand his tackle range. Weaknesses, top end speed is not great. Okay. Average burst coming out of his man covered transitions. Okay. He's a safety. I'm not expecting him to be great in man coverage. Fairly average downhill trigger to deep digs. Okay. Or trigger on deep digs. Needs to drop down and fit run gaps a step sooner near the line. Okay, so he's not as good against the run. This tells me he's more of a Micah Hyde than a Jordan Poyer. Pursuit angles run too steep, preventing leverage to the sidelines. Okay. Tyler Nubin is one heck of a prospect. One heck of a prospect. However, I think for the Bills' sake, there will be better prospects for this team later in the draft. I like Tyler Nubin. I like everything I just read there. I like it. Other than the run game stuff, but that screams, Marcus Williams, Micah Hyde to me. Like similar players. Instinctive. They let the player develop in front of them. They move on the ball. Next player. This is a guy that Bills Mafia in general has been all over, especially since we brought his college DB's coach to the team. And that is Cameron Kinchins from the University of Miami. His player comparison is Juan Thornhill. It's a good player. Juan Thornhill's a good player. He's played for the Chiefs for a while too. And I know that we probably have a disdain for that guy. However, it is what it is. The guy can play. And Kinchins is 5'11", 205 pounds. Comp is Juan Thornhill. Lance Zierlein says, versatile day two safety prospect with the toughness, instincts, and ball skills to handle NFL work no matter where a team aligns him, meaning he's got versatility. Screams Micah Hyde to me. Kinchins is a willing run supporter in the box. Hits with message-sending purpose. Golly, that screams Jordan Poyer to me. Or Jabril Peppers. That screams Jabril Peppers to me. Over the middle and plays with outstanding range as a high safety. Despite the positive tape and attributes at his disposal, he made mistakes in run support and coverage that led to big plays and, in some cases, touchdowns. If he can eliminate the mental mistakes and take better angles to the ball as an an open field tackler, Kinchins should become a good NFL starter capable of creating turnovers. Screams Jabril Peppers to me. Strengths. Scouts praise him for his toughness and intelligence. Instincts and over-the-top range led to 11 takeaways. Attracts throws with receivers' timing and ball skills. Shadows route breaks with adequate transition quickness. Displays enforcer mentality when patrolling to the hashes. Capable add-on run defender as a big nickel near the line. I'm sorry, but the Bills don't do big nickel. We just don't. We don't do big nickel. That means that you would take Taron Johnson off the field, put this guy in the field. You're not taking Taron Johnson off the field. Taron Johnson is our nickel and big nickel. It's just the way it is. Productive tackler on coverage teams. So plays special teams too. Weaknesses: needs to play with better eye balance between receiver and quarterback, plays with better anticipation from zone than man. Zone coverage mix-ups led to 2 scores at North Carolina. Average lateral agility and burst as an open field tackler, and needs to improve angles to the ball carrier as a high safety. Screams second, late second, early third round pick to me. Could be an option for the Bills, but he is still not even my favorite safety in this draft class. He's not. My second to last safety is my favorite safety. Now, we have 4 more guys, so there's 2 more guys before my favorite safety in this class for the Bills. Next safety is Javon Bullard from the University of Georgia. His comparison, they didn't have one for him. And so when I looked at his information, screamed Jordan Poyer, 5'11", 195. Jordan Poyer is 5'11", 190. They had Josh Metellus as his comp. I disagreed. Bullard isn't a clean fit as a full-time nickel and might lack the length and range teams seek from split safety. But he's a good football player with the field awareness teams are looking for. He's going to be a little tight with lateral movements, which Jordan Poyer technically is, which will create some throwing windows and missed tackles from time to time. Jordan Poyer does have those from time to time. He's usually excellent, but Jordan Poyer usually takes a good angle at the first point and doesn't really need to use lateral movements. He's perfected the ability to work around his lacking physical traits. So Jordan Poyer will, generally speaking, Jordan Poyer will not necessarily use lateral movement. If you get Jordan Poyer moving laterally, it's a weakness of his. This guy too. There will be some challenging matchups, but Georgia provided the blueprint by playing him as a big nickel with run support and modest man coverage duties. NFL teams would be wise to follow suit. Bullard should provide quality depth early, but could develop into a starter. So to me, that does shout Jordan Poyer. That was basically what was said about Jordan Poyer coming out of college. So this kid's probably faster, like much faster. He plays with above average football intelligence, Jordan Poyer. Patient in reading and reacting, Jordan Poyer. Spatial awareness helps navigate rub routes, Jordan Poyer. Has the route anticipation to shadow breaks, Jordan Poyer. Attacks blockers with stiff punch to separate as a run supporter. I'm not going to say it again. Centers up and accelerates through the targets as a tackler. Who does that sound like to you? Who does it sound like to you? That sounds exactly like Jordan Poyer to me. Sounds exactly like him. Sabres win. Let's go, baby. Go Bills. Go Bills. Go Sabres. Go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. Javon Bullard. Done. Next one. We're cooking. Jalen Simpson from Auburn. Now, his comp is Brian Branch. He's a little smaller. He can play safety and he can play slot, but he's most likely going to be a slot guy. I can see the Bills bringing him in to play that Cam Lewis role if we can't bring back Cam Lewis. So this guy would be a guy like that. He's 6 foot 178, so he's not a big guy. He's not going to be a huge tackler. Neither is Cam Lewis, but he's out there. Long defensive back with speed, athleticism, and ball skills that might have teams posting him in the cornerback column instead of safety. Simpson has started at both positions, but might be caught between the two. He doesn't support the run very well or well enough to instill confidence as a last line of defense, and he can be a little tardy to get his hips flipped in one-on-one transitions as a corner. Simpson does pedal and match receivers in space, balancing his eyes between route progressions and the quarterback as a high safety. He also contests catches with good success. He's a good football player with explosive traits, but teams will need to have a plan on how to use him. Screams Brian Branch to me, and the way that the Lions use Brian Branch is similar to the way we use Cam Lewis, but Brian Branch is obviously better than Cam Lewis. Like he's Cam Lewis as a starter versus Cam Lewis that we have. Not to say Cam Lewis couldn't start for someone, but he couldn't start for us at safety or at nickel the last few years. But yeah, this guy right here will be a solid like jack of all trades guy. Not quite the Micah Hyde of Green Bay, but more like the Brian Branch of the Detroit Lions, and I'm fine with that. I'd be fine with that. That would be a late round pick to me, though. Like if I'm getting a guy who's not going to start for me, I'm not spending anything sooner than a 4th round pick. It's going to be a day 3 pick. Next guy is my favorite safety in this draft, and you will see soon. He did not have a comp by Lance Zierlein, but it is out of the University of Southern California safety Kalen Bullock, and I comped him to Micah Hyde. And when I read his description to you, you will see why. Kalen Bullock, long and athletic. He is 6'3", 190. So he's like Micah Hyde, but 3 inches taller. About the same weight as Micah Hyde, but taller. Long and athletic with a series of fast or feast or famine plays all over the tape. Bullock can be scary good in coverage and scary bad as a run defender. We've all seen Micah Hyde go out there and get bulldozed against the run. We've also seen him make some good tackles against smaller running backs. Against the bigger guys, he's going to get smashed. He has the range to play single high safety, the athleticism to line up over the slot, and the ball skills to chalk up impressive on-ball production. As a run defender, Bullock's poor recognition, missed run fits, and bad angles to the football cost him chunk plays and touchdowns. It's Micah Hyde. He won't always see or process the game clearly. That's not Micah Hyde. But the athleticism and play-making talent are hard to overlook. If you remember the play against New England in the playoffs, where we beat them 47-17, and Mac Jones threw that pass to Nelson Aguilar, the play recognition at the beginning of the play by Micah Hyde was not great. Once Levi Wallace got beat, Micah Hyde then said, "Oh, crap. I didn't realize it was going to be a sluggo. I thought it was going to be an out." Took off running, and his athleticism is what allowed him to recognize it late and get to the point of the ball. That's exactly what that is. He's young and talented, and if he runs well enough, there might be a team more interested in his skill set as a cornerback than a boom or bust safety. I like him at safety all day. Quick burst and smooth strides, strengths here. Very fluid, swerving and swiveling from deep pedal. Transition quickness to stay connected to man coverage. Upscale ball hawking talent when eyes are properly balanced. Plays with the range, rise, timing, and body control of the receiver. Uses his length and feel to affect passing lanes and catch points. Triggers hard downhill, looking to jar catches loose. It's Micah Hyde. It's Micah Hyde. His weaknesses were already pretty much highlighted in the description. Kalen Bullock is a guy I like to replace Micah Hyde. And he fits the mold. He fits the Micah Hyde mold. Just a little bit taller, so the weight distribution is a little off. But the skill set is there. Last guy I have is more of a Poyer type. I mean, and I'm breaking these down for Bills terminology, but I didn't comp him as Poyer, right? I'm not trying to comp everybody to the Bills. He's a box safety, also from the University of Georgia, and it's Tyke Smith. I comped him to Jamal Adams because he's mostly a box safety guy. He can go after your intermediate routes. He can go after your short routes. He can go after your running backs. Tyke Smith is 5'10", 205, so the weight distribution is fine for him. He's on the a little bit above average size for a safety. It doesn't take long to see why Kirby Smart in Georgia welcomed Smith from West Virginia. He was in transfer portal. Smith plays the star position and is like an additional linebacker in a much smaller frame. So like a Taron Johnson kind of. He's at his best playing forward and has the strength to take on blockers and disrupt pass catchers underneath. Smith is compact and strong, but lacks functional height and length for downfield coverage. So he's not covering deep. Jamal Adams all day. He plays with an NFL demeanor, but will likely be typecast into a very narrow role as a sub-package safety with coverage limitations. That's Jamal Adams to me. Just Jamal Adams was better in those other spots, but once he got to the Seahawks, he got exposed because he didn't have that really good corner play that he was used to in with the Jets. He was better. There were better corners there. So He gets over to Seattle, and this past year they had better corners, but by this time he's damaged goods. He's been hurt a few times already. So good tackler, interception production, stays tight to the pocket of receivers on routes underneath, meaning he's hip to hip with them. He plays with the mindset of a linebacker when he's near the line, plus short range burst to run and hit what's in his area. Unusually tenacious as a blocker on kick returns and punt returns. That's crazy because he's a starter at Georgia. So lack of height and length creates smaller margins for error. I don't see how he's a lack of height because he's 5'10", so that's not really that small for a safety. Tight in the hips and sluggish with acceleration and transitions. That's why he's a box guy. Can struggle receivers playing over the top. That's why he's a box guy. Can be outflanked by speed and run support. That's why he's a blocks guy. One more time, unable to make fluid reactive adjustments as an open field tackler. It's not why he's a box guy. But Tyke Smith, I see him more in the 5th round or so. Solid production in college. Played for the national champions of 2022. Had a solid year, but yeah. Those are the guys that I think the Bills could target in this year's NFL draft. Now, the combine. This is where the combine comes in, right? The NFL combine is going to determine where these guys go from here. As of right now, the grades I've said that I've put on these guys, which I didn't give them for all of them, but I've kind of given it a roundabout, either they were a 1st-round guy or 2nd-round guy or a day 2 or day 3 guy. Those are all going to move. Not all of them, but a lot of those are going to move along with where these guys, not where, but how these guys show at the combine. The combine is really going to help determine the value of these players in the draft. Prime example, Troy Franklin. He goes out there and runs at 4.31. He's probably not making it to us. Brian Thomas, same thing. He's probably not making it to 28, and we'd have to move up to go get him, which I could see happening, right? But I think that we're moving back. I think we're in move back mode this year, but it's possible. So you're going to see these guys fluctuate up and down. And these are the players that I see the Buffalo Bills going after in the draft, potentially. These are going to be the guys on their big board if I'm the Buffalo Bills general manager. Thank God I'm not, right? Because I've been wrong before and I will be wrong again. But that's where I'm at with the draft right now. Until yesterday, I was a big Malik Washington from UVA guy. I'm not turned off by him, but I'm also not dead set on him as I was before. His route running isn't as good as I would hope, but he does make very good plays in space. He is built like a running back, and he also makes moves like a familiar running back to us in Devin Singletary. And so if you get him on a screen, he's going to make some people miss. But also like Devin Singletary, he does not have that next gear to get upfield. He doesn't have that ability. And so with that being said, he fell down my board for me. If the Bills were to take him in the 4th or 5th round, I wouldn't be mad, but I would want one earlier than that first. I'd want one before that first. I'm down for 2 receivers in the 1st round. I just am. So do with that what you will. Now, next week's show will probably be, of course, the post-combine show. So be back here for that. And changes to this list, guys who are no longer on it, guys who have moved up or down or, whatever. We'll see. Also, you might see some extensions or some re-signings happen before then. We'll get there. But, guys, it has been a pleasure. This was another 2-hour show. I was on here for 2 hours, like 15 minutes yesterday with Shoop, and today was another long show. Guys, I love you guys for being here. You have been wonderful. It is Go Bills every day of the week and twice on Sundays. Go Bills, go Bills. Cash that in. But, guys, you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. God bless and go Bills.